What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Therapy, where I, Chase Lee, talk to you as my therapist, the audience, about a movie that I've seen, and let's just have an open and honest discussion about it. And who knows, maybe if there's a movie out there that I'm on the fence about, maybe I can talk about it in real time to you all and maybe come up with a conclusion at the end. Who knows what's going to happen? That's why I always just like having these discussions. I have no idea where these discussions are going to go because I usually do these in one take. So that's the joy of this. Surprise, surprise, you just never know what I'm going to say. So, the movie I want to talk about right now is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Of course, a sequel to Doctor Strange himself. You know, a sequel to the events of Endgame, as all of these projects have been thus far. You know, a sequel to WandaVision, a sequel to Spider-Man No Way Home, because they both deal with the multiverse. So many possibilities that could go into this movie in terms of carrying the story forward. I was curious to see where they were going to go because the marketing has been paper thin on this movie up until about a few days ago when they started releasing a crazy amount of like footage that we hadn't seen before and like possible cameos that are popping up. And I don't really like that. I was actually liking the marketing strategy that they've had for this movie thus far because it's kind of kept us in the dark through most of the movie. After watching the movie, before I even get into it, I can tell you right now, most of the trailers are like the first third of the movie. There's a couple of them that kind of a couple shots that like trickle into the back half of the movie, but a lot of it's in the front. And so I've applauded the marketing doing a great job kind of hiding most things. Of course, like I said, as of late, the past few days, they've been really amping it up with cameo reveals or different shots. I'm like, you don't need that. People are going to go see it. Anyways, a little tangent right there, but I've liked the marketing thus far because after watching like that first Super Bowl spot and then going online and watching the longer version, I was super excited for it. I was excited to see where they could take this story because Doctor Strange is one of those few characters to where it can get crazy, it can get psychedelic, it can get multiversal, and we will accept it because that's what that character is. He has the power to do that. And so I was curious to see where they were going to go with it. And of course, it's from writer Michael Waldron, who wrote the Loki series. So, you know, and I love Loki quite a bit as a TV show. And of course, setting up the next big bad, or one of the next big bads. So, yeah, I was excited. And of course, director Sam Raimi, Evil Dead, Drag Me to Hell, the Spider-Man films, Oz the Great and Powerful. The man has a diverse portfolio, to say it lightly. So, yeah, so I saw it. And before I begin, I will say this. I will do this review in two sections. I typically keep spoilers out of stuff, but I kind of have to bring up some of the things. So the way I'm going to talk about it is that I will do a non-spoiler kind of overall thing and like tell you what I like, what I didn't like about it, and then I'll give you guys a pause, a warning, and then I will jump straight into the spoilers. So I'll give you a fair warning, but it's kind of hard not to talk about it. So, you know, if you want to save this review for later or this podcast episode and, you know, come back to it, totally understand. What do I think about it overall? There's a reason why I recorded this review 2 days after I saw it. There was absolutely no way I could do like an initial reaction or review as soon as I saw it. I typically don't do that anyways. I usually wait minimum 24 hours before I collect my thoughts and kind of like figure out like what I liked and what I didn't. Because the initial excitement and buzz from Marvel films is understandable. You watch it, you're excited, you leave it and you're like, wow, that was amazing, that was mind-blowing, let's talk about all the theories, but how was the movie? Like, the actual movie. You know, I saw Eternals 3 times. I saw Shang-Chi 3 times before I came to an actual conclusion on whether I liked it, loved it, thought it was okay, or whatever. And so, I'm definitely going to see this again. But after leaving the movie, I honestly didn't know what to think. And so I had to sit on this for quite some time. My conclusion right now after the first viewing, I like it, but I can understand people's issues with it. I'm going to address some of those issues. I think some of them are warranted, some of them are not. But right now, I like it. It does stand out amongst all the other films in this universe, and I'm a huge fan of this universe. But I will also point out ones that are mediocre or ones that just don't really work for me. Even with the TV shows on Disney Plus, this universe is not perfect. It's just not. I prefer ones over the others, and that's perfectly fine. But I will say this one stands out quite a bit as being a horror film first, an MCU movie second, and I appreciate the creativity that was injected from director Sam Raimi, really bringing his influences in camera work, sound design, editing, writing, humor, gore, all that stuff from Evil Dead films and Drag Me to Hell, and taking his superhero knowledge that he learned from the Spider-Man trilogy, and he's infused all that together to bring us this. It's absolutely amazing to see. Because when the movie starts, like, yeah, it opens up on a chase scene, and then we get, like, a monster fight, like, shortly after, and which, by the way, side point, this movie is at a fantastic pace. For 2 hours, the thing starts super fast. It throws you right into the action, does not let up, and even with, like, some of the more character intimate moments, it still flies by. Like, it's amazing to me how well paced this movie is. Could be a problem. I understand some people have an issue with, like, script and the amount of story and characters that they are trying to throw in there. But I thought for the story that was told, the pace is incredible. Anyways, back to Sam Raimi. It takes a while for it to get going. But once Sam Raimi is unleashed, it is a sight to behold. It is horrific. It is gory as hell. The body count is huge. It's weird. It's kooky. It's totally got Sam Raimi's personality all over it. The whip in the cameras, the hard zoom-ins, the just the energy that is projected through the camera, the color correction, the editing, and the sound design and the music. It's 100% Sam Raimi. And I love that. I absolutely do. It reminds me of when I saw Drag Me to Hell in the theaters. Because that was the first Sam Raimi film I saw that wasn't Spider-Man in a theater. I thought, wow, this movie's so much fun. Like, he totally gets, like, horror comedy, but he's also a really great director in advancing story and advancing characters. And he does that here, too. The visual aesthetic in this film is amazing. It's got his fingerprints all over it. But he still understands, like, you need great characters and great story. And there's so many great moments in this film that deal with Wanda, that deal with Strange, that deal with Wong, that have all these kind of, like, deep layers to it in terms of, like, Wanda being controlled and being tempted by something that isn't there, and it really destroying her soul because she hasn't gotten over the grief of losing her one true love. You have Stephen Strange, who's going through a similar thing where he's a lonely person. He regrets not being with Christine, and no matter what universe he's in, he's always going to love her, even if in that universe she doesn't know who he is. Like, there's great moments like that are sprinkled throughout that give us pause, that give us reflection on these characters that we've seen and kind of grown up with. It was great. And that's his capability from the Spider-Man films. Like, he was able to craft a really great Peter Parker story with MJ and have their love story blossom while also having the looming threats of the villains, like, sprinkled throughout, but the villains were also three-dimensional and you cared about them and you understood where they were coming. Like, once again, Sam Raimi kind of, like, takes everything that he's done in his career to give us this. And to have so much personality and influence in this film, and being as horrifying as it is, There was a couple jump scares that actually got me. And I'm like, good job, Raimi. Good job. Now, keep this also in mind. Still a Disney film. There are certain constraints that they have to fit into so it could be technically a family film. But I will say this is one of the goriest and most violent ones in the MCU, period. And so I was actually shocked that they got away with so much stuff. But once again, it fits into this kind of boogeyman, kind of stalker horror film that they've kind of set up for themselves. Because Wanda is truly the force that's cutting through this story, and Strange is trying to stop her. And she is like a boogeyman, just like walking around, like scaring the crap out of people around corners and stuff. And like, I thought that worked. I thought that was really well handled, establishing that type of tone and really, just giving us what we were getting ready for. And so I appreciate that. So in terms of vision, Sam Raimi knocked it out of the park. And in terms of developing character and just, a little bit more depth with Stephen Strange and Wanda Maximoff, good stuff. Let's talk about the story. I thought the story overall was honestly fine. I thought that what we were given, pretty straightforward, really nothing too crazy besides the Illuminati scene. and of course at the very end, but we'll discuss all that in the spoiler section if I liked it or not. But in terms of the actual like story and the flow and everything, it does feel a bit rushed. It feels like this was a 3-hour cut and it was whittled down to 2 hours. Is the pace good? Absolutely. I think this 2 hours is going to fly by for anyone that wants to check it out. But I'm not going to lie, and I will say that I wish it was longer to kind of feel a little bit more worth it in the journey, because it feels like it is just jumping from place to place to place, and like we have our slower moments with like characters talking to each other or reflecting or whatever. But I also just feel like there was just so much missing. It felt like there were scenes that were cut out that maybe in the editing room they thought made sense, but like when you watch it as a whole, you're like, okay, I mean, I'm enjoying this, but it does feel like it's a bit rushed in the story. There's a lot of things that are just kind of brought up and brushed over, and I think it'll confuse people. And I don't know. It's one of those things where when I watch again, I'll really just kind of examine scene to scene and really see like what I feel like is missing. But when you watch it for a first time, like it feels like there's something missing. And that could be an issue with scenes being cut out, or Michael Waldron not really tapping into the full multiverse potential, or really putting Doctor Strange forward in his own movie. Because I will admit, some of the complaints online that this is Wanda's movie, it kind of feels like it. I'm not going to lie to you. So I feel like there's most of the problems are mainly script issues and just really. And I'm not saying this is easy. This is one of these stories that, there's just so much, and I'm not envious of anyone that has to write this. I think Michael Waldron did a pretty decent job. This is more Sam Raimi's vision and excitement in the storytelling and the visual component that made me eventually like this movie. But I will say that things feel rushed. I think Stephen Strange does take a back seat in his own movie. And I feel like they could have made this movie longer to make scenes matter most, or more, or make the journey feel worthwhile and not feel like it's rushed. Like there's so many different things that I think they probably left on the cutting room floor that honestly they should have just stuck in. But yeah, we'll get all to the cameos and all that stuff here in a second, because I know a lot of people are angry and excited. I don't know. Some of the takes online have been interesting. I will just say that. But yeah, I think for what Waldron had, I think he did fine. And of course, like, the introduction of like America Chavez and stuff, and bringing on some other new characters while, having the old characters do their thing. Once again, fine. The main issue I have with the script, not even just feeling rushed or feeling like things are missing, it's what Kevin Feige said. Let me take a sip of coffee before I get into this. Excuse me. He said a long time ago, the Disney Plus shows are not required viewing. You can watch the movies from movie to movie, and that's that. The shows are extra, for the fans, like to get deeper understanding with these characters and expand the story a little bit more. And they still will play into the movies, but from Feige's mouth, he said that they are not required viewing. My biggest issue with this script is that WandaVision, that the show that came out a year and a half ago, plays more into this movie than I thought it would. And I sat there with someone at the screening who had never seen WandaVision. Now, he liked the movie as well, but I'm sure going through his mind, he was probably wondering, why does Wanda have kids? What is this? Why is she so obsessed with getting her kids back if she has no kids? Stephen Strange is clearly telling her, like, you have no kids, Wanda. What are you doing? And they just kind of carry forward. Now, is this movie a great epilogue to that show? Absolutely. But to the average person that doesn't watch these shows, they're going to be extremely confused. And they didn't do a good enough job setting up WandaVision stuff, tying it into a Doctor Strange sequel, and explain it in a way to where people could get it without watching the show. It was just more of like, yeah, she had kids, and like she's got kids in other universes, and she's obsessed with them. She's just crazy. The Darkhold's got her. But when you see the show, you understand like why she's got the Darkhold basically holding her hostage. You understand like why she captured Westview and held everyone hostage. Like, the backstory in that show supports this movie well, but to an average person, I think they're going to be confused. So I don't think they did a good job like tying in WandaVision into this movie. If people don't watch the shows, it just feels kind of random. So for me, I like it because, like I said, it's a good epilogue to the show. But if I'm talking like a person that sees 2 movies a year, right? Doesn't watch any TV, just likes Marvel movies, like I'm gonna go see that and that at the end of the year. It makes no freaking sense. Just be straight up with you. It just seems kind of like, oh, she's just crazy. Like she's just, oh my God, what is she doing? So I think that would be my biggest complaint of the script is just incorporating all that stuff into the movie. And like I realize that was the plan all along, but once again, this is a Doctor Strange sequel first. It should be he should be the forefront character, not Wanda Maximoff. But since she is, her story doesn't make any sense if you've never seen that show. So there you go. Okay, so let's move on to performances and the actual characters in the film. Start with Stephen Strange, Benedict Cumberbatch. Great job. I am enjoying watching his performance in these films. I think he really has that leadership presence. I like hearing his voice. He's got a great character. And I was wondering where they were going to go for this film. I love the fact that they made him lonely and just lost and regretful that he was not there in time for Christine to fall back in love with him again, because he made that decision to save the world and he was gone for 5 years. So I totally get it. He made that sacrifice, but it's just really sad to kind of see the aftermath of all that and having him regret not being with Christine. And that really got to me. There was a couple scenes that he really stood out, and I was just like, this is why his story in this is great, because it's all about this thematic kind of undertone. And I thought his performance was good in his own movie. We'll get to that in just a second. Rachel McAdams and like Chiwetel Ejiofor, Benedict Wong, all good stuff. I mean, it's not anything spectacular. I think Rachel McAdams has a couple great scenes, especially when she's interacting with Benedict. But they're fine. Let's talk about Xochitl Gomez as America Chavez. I like the character. I think she has more potential. I think she's got the charisma. She's got the spunk. As this teenage kid that doesn't really know her powers or how strong she actually is, she can punch through multiverses, and she can just portal herself into other worlds and dimensions, and like, it's crazy how powerful she is. And we do get that really cool trippy sequence that you've seen in the trailers with her and Doctor Strange, like going through all these universes. I'm sure New Rockstars is going to dissect that video until their eyeballs are bleeding, figuring out, like pausing and like figuring out which world they went through. But Xochitl Gomez, she has potential. I liked her backstory. It's very tragic, and I like the fact that she's kind of this teenager that doesn't really know who she is yet. And Doctor Strange is like, you are super powerful. I think if you can hone in on your powers, you're gonna be better off for it, because she didn't know how to control it at first. So I liked her. I'm excited to see where she goes. But make no mistake about it, this is Elizabeth Olsen's movie. Once again, I understand the complaint of being, the lead in a movie that is titled to be someone else, and that title person is the secondary character. I totally get that. But Elizabeth Olsen, I've always loved. Even with her first appearance, and at the end of Winter Soldier, when her and her brother had the end credit scene, and we got to see them in their little holding cells, and even with just her working her hands to show us her powers, I knew right there, I was like, yeah, this is the right person. And when you see her in Age of Ultron, she's outstanding. But the cool thing with her is, she's gotten better each time. WandaVision was the pinnacle of her character. I was like, where else can she go? I was wrong. She is fantastic in this film. So many great scenes where you feel that pain and that suffering through her voice, in her eyes, through her body movement. It's incredible. Like, she really has tapped into this character, and it's amazing to watch her work it. And I love her costume. We finally get to see it. Of course, we got to see it a little bit in WandaVision, but seeing it in full force here, great stuff. I think she really is the anchor and the heartbeat of this movie, honestly. Even though she's kind of like the Michael Myers of the story, like cutting through and chasing down everyone, she's the base of this movie, for sure. And the final like few moments with her character, and kind of like a more reflective scene, that was beautiful. I was like, because she sold it in the scene with her performance, really moved me. So, yes, unfortunately, she has, I think, more impact than Doctor Strange does in his own movie. But it is what it is. Another thing I didn't really care for, and this was very apparent in the beginning of it, the CGI and the special effects. I really didn't like the compositing work that they did with the green screen scenes. It just, I don't know, there was something really off about it. Does it play into the campiness of Sam Raimi? Absolutely. There's no denying that. But it's very distracting. I noticed it in the very opening scene. I also noticed it in the first fight. It did get better like towards the end, but man, that's also like with Sam Raimi's vision and his personality. There was a lot of this stuff that just took a while to like get used to or like get into. So it was a bit of a rocky start, even though it starts instantly. But I noticed that, and I just thought it was some really bad compositing work where you can clearly tell they were in front of a blue screen or green screen. And yes, I realize that that's the running joke. All Marvel movies have blue screen and green screen, but you can make it work. The Batman had a lot of. They had that. It's not a green screen, blue screen, but it's a screen that like can wrap around in 360, and it provides that same effect. So there are methods to make it blend really well and make it seamless to feel like these characters are in a real environment. But at the very beginning, in the first fight scene with the monster that you've seen in the trailer a million times, it was bad. So, but yeah, that was kind of like my major complaint about the special effects or whatever. The score is fantastic from Danny Elfman. I really loved just the sinister undertones, the heroic undertones. I love the epicness that was just swept in each scene, and the emotions were at an all-time high. I just thought he really understood scenes and characters, and I thought he did a fantastic. It was one of my favorite parts about the movie was the score for sure. And yeah, and then the movie ends on a cliffhanger, and then the end credit scenes happen. But I'll discuss that in the spoiler section. So overall, on my first viewing, are there problems with it? Sure. I like it. It's not one of my favorites in Phase 4 thus far, but I am excited to see it again because I want to see it with a bigger audience. I also want to see it through a different perspective now that I know everything that's going to happen, whether if the story makes sense or not. So, I like it. I think Phase 4 is going to be controversial. Eternals is still my favorite thus far. Sorry. So, but I like this one. But let me know down below what you thought of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I would like to know your thoughts. But this is your warning. I'm going to dive into spoilers right now. So I'm going to give you a 5 count. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And if you're still here, I gave you the warning. So there's that. I'm actually not going to talk about the cameos first. I'm going to talk about the fact that at the end of the film, Wanda has the temple where she has the final battle collapse on herself. I don't know if she's dead or not. Not a lot of people are talking about that. They're talking about the cameos and all this other stuff, but that was kind of shocking that they just, I think they might have just killed her off. Do they have the possibility of going into another multiverse and getting another Wanda? Sure, but I think that'd be lazy. I think it would actually be quite satisfying to see her be in so much grief and have all that pain processed within her to where she made questionable decisions and choices to where it turned her bad and she wanted to go into the dark hold, and it just made her more obsessed and just deadly, and her consequences have actions. And I think possibly having her die would be an incredible character arc. So honestly, I hope they keep her dead. Because I was shocked when I saw it. I was like, oh shit, did she die? So yeah, I really like the ending of that film. And of course the end stinger, the cliffhanger, is that Doctor Strange is now he brought Sinister Strange with him into our universe. So yeah, he's got a third eye now. It was basically him screaming up into the sky and then just cut to credits. I'm going to get to the cameos in a second. There are 2 end credit scenes. The last one is for laughs. Doesn't matter. You can honestly leave after the first one. Do not sit through the entire credits unless you want to hear Danny Elfman's amazing score. The first end credit scene, I have no idea what it was. There was a character that popped up. Doctor Strange approaches said character. I forgot what they said. I think she said, like, we have to go do this or whatever. He's like, I got you. And then they cut open our world, like a little slit or whatever, and then they go through it into another universe. He opens up his third eye. He's like, yeah, I'm ready to go. One of my things with the post-credit scenes in the Marvel films, which, is a great tradition of theirs, it's supposed to get you excited, right? Shang-Chi, I got excited because I was like, cool, where are those rings coming from? Eternals. The first one, I was like, okay, this could bleed into like Guardians or Thor. Like, yeah, sure, I'm excited. But then the second one was like, okay, this is a Blade scene, but we haven't seen Blade yet. Like, I don't think people are going to know who that is. And like, that was confusing. And then Spider-Man No Way Home, what was it? Was there one? I don't even remember now. Maybe I'm thinking of Morbius and their terrible one. Sorry. And then for this one, character shows up, needs Doctor Strange. They go through to another universe. Excuse me. The end credit scene made me sneeze. The character in question, I have no idea who she is, but played by Charlize Theron. Cool. I like her. I'm curious to see what she would do in this universe. So, very confusing. And then the last end credit scene is just Bruce Campbell with a joke that happens early on in the film. He stops and he's like, it's over. And then the movie stops. So, it's mainly just more for comedic effect. It is what it is. Okay. Let's jump into the cameos. First of all, I want everyone listening to this review, please go in knowing that this is not a cameo-filled movie. This is not a movie that's going to like knock your socks off with cameo appearance. We don't need that. That would be terrible fan service. I don't want that. It's got to fit in with the story. It's got to make sense. Besides the Illuminati, there's really not any more like surprise cameos. There's nothing. It's just like, it's very straightforward. The trailer has been very accurate-ish and just telling you like, hey, this is what's going to happen. They go through multiverses, they encounter a bunch of people, and then Doctor Strange ends up fighting himself and Wanda at the same time. I mean, that's basically it. So for the cameos, the Illuminati scene. On the Illuminati board is Black Bolt from the Inhumans. He's the character that can't say anything or he will kill people. Captain Carter from What If, we kind of expected that. Charles Xavier in the classic yellow little car. Anyways, Maria Rambeau is Captain Marvel in this universe. And so that was cool. And then, of course, the big one, he's there. The fans wanted it. John Krasinski as Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. By the way, all these people die in the Illuminati, so we're not attached to any of these versions of these characters. Wanda comes in and just annihilates all of them, which provides some of the most gruesome scenes in the movie. Once again, surprised I got away with it. How was John as Mr. Fantastic? He was fine. I actually didn't really sink into his performance at all. I thought something was a bit off. It didn't really, I don't know, it just didn't really fit with me. Maybe if I see him in other projects, if his version in our universe pops up, whatever, like, I'll give it a second chance. But initial, off the bat, yeah. So, I'm sure it'll be surprising to some people, but for me, I was just like, I mean, that's cool. I expected that. People have been talking about it online, but he was fine. So yeah, I mean, that's basically it. That's kind of all the big surprises. Like, do not expect this movie to like change your life and be like, oh my god, I saw so many. We don't want, like, that's not a good story. Does the Illuminati scene play well into the overall story? I would say to some degree. It's not the cameos that I really appreciate. It's more of the Stephen Strange like just breaking so many like laws out there to where he had to be accounted for and everything. Like, that was cool. Like, I understand that, and like Doctor Strange in their universe did a really bad thing, and so they also propped him up as a hero. So the Illuminati is definitely like super bad in this film. So, but like I understand like why it was there in the story, but yeah, I don't think the cameos are enough to be an outcry. Be like, oh my god, this is fan service. It's like they're in there for like maybe 10-15 minutes. Like it's not a big deal. To all the people online that are saying that they're disappointed because they didn't see a lot of cameos, then you didn't want to actually watch the movie. You just wanted to watch big surprises every 2 seconds and call it a day. That's not, no, we're not doing that. I don't mind cameos if they make sense, but do not go into a movie. Your expectations for this movie are going to be disappointed if you're just going in expecting cameos. That's not going to work. If you, and I've seen a lot of people like, I don't like this movie because it's got Sam Raimi's stamp all over it. Well, that's why he was hired, to make it feel like a Drag Me to Hell meets a comic book movie. I thought it worked to a lot of degrees. A lot of people are complaining about that too. It's just like, it's just so weird to me to see these takes. And then like people that, you know, I also follow are like, hey, this was just a disappointment. I didn't really care for it. Cool. That's totally fine. It just didn't really click with them. But like some of the reasons that I've seen online have been outrageous. Like, why are you getting mad that there's not a lot of cameos? Why are you getting mad that this is a Sam Raimi movie? Like, I get that that is more of like a Kevin Feige problem, having this interconnected universe and feeling like each movie is like it's roughly like kind of the same feeling and look. It's like Sam Raimi was brought in to mix it up, and I thought he did a pretty good job at it. So I don't know, maybe that's just me, but yeah, some of the takes online are incredible, I guess. But yeah, that will do it for this installment of Movie Therapy. Thank you for joining me as I talked about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Please let me know down below what you thought of the movie, and you know, all the surprises, the story. Just, did it work for you? Did it not? I want to know all of that, so please let me know. That would be much appreciated. But I'm Chase Lee. Thank you for joining me on this session of Movie Therapy, and I will see you guys on the next one. It has been a pleasure. Goodbye.